friends, we will start basically in a couple of minutes. We're still waiting for the institute to come to join us on this panel. Open remarks and we are ready. Your Excellencies, esteemed colleagues, dear friends, my name is Gani Maksak. I am Executive Director of Foreign Policy and Culture Ukraine PRISM, and I'm very happy to announce the launch of the brand new Ukrainian Central European Forum, which we are organizing jointly with our partners from Organised Foundation and our great and generous support from our partners from European Union, which we appreciate very much. Before we plunge in our interesting discussions and revelations, let's start with some opening remarks, and I'm happy to give the floor for welcome remarks to our partners in the project, to Alexander Sushko, Director of the International Renaissance Foundation. Alexander, please.
Thank you, Gennady. It's a great pleasure to honor and to see such a brilliant audience here at this forum. And again, this maybe one of the points of return to the offline gatherings and expert discussions. For International Renaissance Foundation, providing platforms for international dialogue is one of the key priorities. And it's not just an occasion that we have elaborated together with our partners this idea of branding this discussion and this forum under this Central European symbolics. So this is not just a occasion. It's just a part of identity we would like to put forward, and this is not just a legacy of those Austrian geographers who some decades ago put the stone of this symbol of Central Europe somewhere near Ukrainian town of Rakhiv. So that's not so much about geography, because we know that there are many such stones in Europe. However, there are natural reasons for Ukraine to some extent feel itself as a Central European country, not just Eastern European. And Ukrainian initiatives in this part of the world certainly go beyond the traditional, I would say, this Eastern European dimension, and certainly that was a natural sphere of Ukrainian history, centuries of our history, in the sense of how the Central Europe has been conceptualized in many texts, essays, as an area, as the most dense and intensive interrelations between various ethnic, religious, cultural groups of European nations, peoples, and it remains to be so. So thank you everybody who accepted an invitation to take part in this event. Thank you European Union for supporting this initiative together with us. Thank you Ukrainian PRISM for taking a lead in organizing the event, and thank you Ukrainian Foreign Ministry for active engagement. And we look forward in the today and tomorrow to listen to experts, intellectuals, to see what the new context of the European thinking may we bring together into the current European debates, to what extent we are ready to be part of today's European debates, because this is the only way to be a part of Europe, to be actual, to be real part of the narratives of these discussions, of the intellectual processes, to feel the nerve of Europe of today. So thank you everybody, and welcome everybody, and let's think together.
Thank you so much, Alexander, for partnering in this great initiative. And as you already mentioned, this project is supported by EU-funded EU for Society project, and it is very important for us that we have Mati Masikas, EU ambassador, head of the EU delegation to Ukraine. Your Excellency, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Indeed, feel not only happy and proud being here, but also feel very much at home. Meaning I have lived in or worked on Central and Eastern Europe all my life, and it's very suitable for me to, and I'm very happy to also having supported this event. I'd like to quote, not surprisingly, I'd like to quote my boss, the High Representative of the EU's foreign security policy, Josep Borrell, who recently said, if Europe wants to play a key role in shaping the post-COVID-19 world, we must strengthen our internal cohesion and engage more effectively with regions around the globe. Of course, the region that counts here today is the Central European region, which Ukraine forms a very natural part. I mean, everybody who has been here, everybody who has traveled around can testify that. So these words can also serve as a motto for the Ukrainian Central European Forum, and I hope that this platform will serve as an instrument to foster regional cooperation and thus help bring Ukraine closer to the EU, our mission as it is. A forum is a place for discussion, so it's a place for dialogue, and during those 2 days, politicians, diplomats, and civil society representatives will discuss challenges and opportunities for regional cooperation in Central Europe. I do believe that thematic dialogues and creation of civil society platforms where such dialogues can take place is instrumental if we want to move forward. We are glad to support this event taking place within the EU for EU Society project funded by the EU. We are very glad to work together with International Renaissance Foundation, who is our strategic partner for capacity development of civil society in Ukraine. We are all working with a common goal, a reformed Ukraine, democratic, united, and prosperous. And our partnership with Ukraine relies on strong civil society and policy dialogue between civil society and the government. Whenever we program EU support to Ukraine in any policy area, these are things we always keep in mind. We always start with the vision where we as partners want to be and why we want to be there. Let's do this exercise here today as well. Let's talk about regional cooperation in Central Europe and where we want to be. I wish you all very successful, productive discussions and dialogues. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you so much. And let me share with you some fresh memories while we're still conceptualizing this forum, this platform. We had a lot of debates on over the naming, the title of that. And we wanted to spot region. We wanted to talk about neighbors, about principles, values. And then we got quite a winning argument from Foreign Minister about Central European identity. That's why we decided, why not? We have this region, we have this fora, and let's explore what we have, what we may have in common. Foreign Minister, I invite you maybe to share your vision on Central Europe, about regional cooperation. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello, everyone. Excellencies, friends. People who work with me know that ever since I became foreign minister, I started putting a lot of pressure on my colleagues, telling them we need to do more in Central Europe. We need to get back. We need to have better relations with our immediate neighbors. We need to be better integrated into the network of different formats and mechanisms existing in Central Europe. And I do not do a lot of forums and opening speeches. But when I was invited to address this gathering, I immediately accepted. Because this is exactly what I want to be happening, and this is exactly what fits the foreign policy priorities of Ukraine. History brought a very interesting division to this part of Europe, because whether you belong to Central Europe or Eastern Europe is defined not by geography, not by culture, but merely by your not so far away political past. And this is something that we can change. Europe has been fragmented for hundreds of years. It was one of the strengths of Europe to be fragmented, but it was also one of its weaknesses. Now we see a different trend, a trend of building a stronger, unified Europe. And of course, we see Ukraine as part of that effort. But becoming a part of a big unified Europe without becoming a part of unified Central Europe is not feasible. And therefore, we attach great importance to Central European region. In fact, before Bogdan Khmelnytsky signed a pact with the Grand Duchy of Moscow, the largest part of our history, of our interests, of our economic ties were in Central Europe. The second dimension was actually the south, oriental dimension. We should never forget that Ukraine also has a very strong oriental dimension in its history and in its future, and respectively in its foreign policy. I have a couple of good examples from history, like the Union of Lublin, where Ukrainian nobility was an equal partner of the Union, or the Battle of Orsha, or the personality of Konstantin Ostrovsky, who is buried here in Kiev. Those were all historical events for Central Europe, and historical heroes and personalities for Central Europe. And we should never forget about it. And this past should never overshadow the following developments in history when Ukraine found itself better integrated into what is artificially called now Eastern Europe. Therefore, I'm deeply convinced that Ukraine is, and now I have to go back to the text, otherwise we'll waste too much of time. I'm deeply convinced that Ukraine is and has always been a Central European state, historically, politically, and culturally. most importantly, Central Europe is where our identity belongs. We focus our foreign policy on a number of priorities and goals, and Ukraine as an active Central European state is one of those priorities. This course becomes ever more apparent now when, for the first time in 30 years, we have developed and adopted Ukraine's foreign policy strategy, the systemic document to guide our foreign policy. Ukraine is creating an area of security, freedom, and prosperity, not only for itself, but the region that stretches between the Baltic and Black Seas. Ukraine actively creates regional formats and alliances. The most notable of them are the Lublin Triangle, Associated Trio, Ukrainian-Turkish Quadriga, and the most recent Crimea Platform. We have created the new Quadriga format with Turkey last year, in which foreign ministers and defense ministers of Ukraine and Turkey hold regular joint meetings to discuss a wide range of European and Black Sea region political and security matters. The Lublin Triangle with Poland and Lithuania, and I see a Polish ambassador here, it's good to see you, was created in July 2020 and has already proven to be a good format of regional cooperation. Ministers of Foreign Affairs of the Lublin Triangle have held 3 meetings in 1 year. At the last one this summer in Vilnius, we signed the roadmap for cooperation and joint action plan to counter disinformation. We plan to hold a meeting of the heads of government at the summit of the Lublin Triangle in the future. Just as the Weimar Triangle helped Poland integrate into the EU in the 90s and early 2000s, the Lublin Triangle today is seen here in Kiev as one of the tools to facilitate Ukraine's EU membership. The associated trio of Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova was created in May this year in Kiev to enhance, once again, our European integration and our dialogue with the European Union. Ukraine, Georgia, and Moldova are now closely coordinating our positions in preparation for the Eastern Partnership Summit. We jointly advocate for an ambitious joint declaration which should acknowledge European aspirations of our 3 nations. Ukraine's regional leadership was further enhanced last year by the election of Ukrainian ambassador to Hungary as president of the Danube Commission. For the first time in 70 years, Ukraine's representative is in charge of developing policies within this reputable Central European format. I was pleased to be invited for the first time this year to a ministerial meeting of the Central European 5, which includes Austria, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, Hungary, and the Czech Republic, and regards to our Czech colleague as well. For the first time this year, Ukraine participated in a meeting of NATO Eastern Flank allies, Poland, Romania, and Turkey. We also continue to actively cooperate within the framework of the Visegrad 4 and are working on obtaining the status of a partner in the 3 Seas initiative. All of these new formats are a rapid response to the fast-changing political circumstances and security environment in the region. Ukraine pursues a proactive policy as envisioned by our foreign policy strategy. We are building dynamic alliances in the region to address national and regional security challenges. If we look at Central Europe, we see how fragmented and interconnected this part of the map is. How there are many formats, networks, mechanisms of cooperation, bringing together specific countries in various formats. And this is the reflection of how this part of Europe has evolved for centuries. But this is also a clear indicator that this region is flexible enough to respond to new challenges and to changing political geography, where new links, new connections, new bonds can be built easily between neighboring countries in Central Europe. And it's one of the assets of East Central Europe. In my view, Central Europe, if we accept the division of Europe into Western and Central, something that many would prefer probably not to mention, then we can come to a conclusion that in this sense, Central Europe is more flexible than Western Europe when it comes to cooperation and formats of cooperation existing between countries in this part of the continent. I'm grateful to all our Central European partners for supporting Ukraine's Crimea deoccupation strategy and joining the final declaration of the International Crimean Platform. In fact, it comes as no surprise that Central European countries were the first among all participants of the Crimea Platform Summit to send their confirmations of attendance at the highest level, along with the European Union, who should be credited for taking a strong leadership on this issue. The Crimea Platform began its regular work on intergovernmental, interparliamentary and expert levels, and we will be making particular focus on cooperating with Central European countries on all three levels. I'm also grateful to our Central European partners, Poland, Slovak Republic, Hungary and the Czech Republic, for supporting Ukraine's reform process and Ukraine's struggle to restore its territorial integrity and defend itself from Russian aggression. This forum is yet another evidence that Ukraine is back in Central Europe at all levels, from political to expert. We are not guests, we are part of it. We are both security donor and security recipient. We are a rescuer and not a victim. Ukraine is back in Central Europe where it has always belonged. And we need to clear our Central European history, Ukrainian Central European history, from dust and bring to light the contribution of this nation to making Central Europe what it is now. This is part of our foreign policy strategy and its top 6 priorities. Restoring peace and territorial integrity of Ukraine is the first one. The second one is countering Russian aggression and bringing Russia to justice for its crimes. Achieving Ukraine's EU and NATO membership is the third priority. The fourth one is creating new economic opportunities for our exporters and foreign investors in Ukraine. The fifth priority is protecting rights and interests of Ukrainian citizens abroad. And the sixth one is developing Ukraine's soft power and promoting its positive brand abroad. If you go through these 6 priorities, you will see that Central Europe is the best place where all 6 priorities are present, they are relevant, and where we have a lot of work to do together with our neighbors and partners. I want to thank organizers of this forum. It's like supporting, thanking brands who paid for the event, right? So I cannot not mention them, which I do with pleasure. So I want to thank the organizers of this forum, the International Renaissance Foundation, a good partner and a big contributor to developing Ukrainian civil society and also Ukrainian foreign policy, and the Foreign Policy Council Ukrainian Prism. Hennady is demonstrating a great leadership in steering the foreign policy expert community in Ukraine, and of course the European Union and its EU for Society project. I see a lot of smart people in the room. I think more smart people are actually following this online. And I would like to wish you one thing, to launch a venue, to launch a format that will help Ukraine, not only Ukraine to realize, to restore its place in Central Europe, but also Central Europe to realize the role of Ukraine in making Europe as a whole stronger and more efficient in a global struggle for power. And I will not get tired of repeating what I said 2 years ago, and what sounds very similar to what Matis Boss has said recently. To play big, Europe has to get bigger. It's very rational, very pragmatic. And together, we can make Central Europe stronger, but more importantly, we will make an entire Europe stronger. Thank you.
Your Excellency, thank you so much. You have set the scene for 2 days of debates. I think that there would be many mentions of your keynote speech during our debate. I expect that. And we have prepared different panels, different issues to be discussed. And with no further ado, I would like to pass the baton to my colleague, who will be moderating and chairing the first panel, the first debate. And with this, we are starting our Ukrainian Central European Forum. Many thanks for your participation and for your keynote speech. Thank you so much.
Kind words. I would like to invite here to the stage first panel speakers, who are, first of all, I invite Vasyl Bondar, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Yeah, I think that they will change probably these titles, yeah? Mm-hmm. So, just we give organizers the half minute to change names.
It's too early.
No, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. I already invited you. So just I moved as a moderator to the corner. It would be better. So I invite Ambassador of the Czech Republic to Ukraine, Radek Matula. I invite Bartosz Cichocki, Ambassador of the Republic of Poland. And I invite also Kristina Murphy, Deputy Head of Mission Embassy of Hungary in Ukraine. Thank you. Now we have an hour and a half to discuss maybe some basic, some fundamental issues of the Central European cooperation, identity, prospects, content, experiences. We have a lot, and this experience varies from visible success to failures, and there are many arguments in favor of closer cooperation and maybe to more careful engagement. There are many, and you can easily find in the past arguments either for optimism or for pessimism for this part of the world. Certainly when we look at the region, we see that there are many issues which move the countries and peoples of this part of Europe together. At the same time, we have many things to divide. I mean, for example, the biggest divide is divide between the EU and NATO member states and those who are out of these biggest institutions. And probably this is one of the biggest dilemma of this region, how to move it forward when there is still this big dividing line of those who are successfully accomplished their mission of integration and those who are still in the line or maybe in the process, and even those who are maybe unwilling. So there are many aspects of this. Certainly we have various dimensions: diplomatic, political, civil society, economic, trade, borders. We still have the most complicated borders probably in Europe, exactly between us and our Central European neighbors, which takes hours to cross. And this is something which should be addressed. We also have a huge rise of interpersonal communications in the last decade, probably. And now we may say that the scope of interpersonal communication in this part of the world has reached the level which was never reached before. And now we have thousands, hundreds of thousands people crossing the border, students, workers, teachers, IT specialists, whoever, who are shaping the various international cross-border communities. And so now we have this probably strongest ever community of Ukrainians who contribute the economies and societies of neighboring Central European states. So let's discuss. And we also have these formats, this history of various political formats which have to be probably discussed, which of them are really can be taken, can be assessed as a positive accomplishment. We know we have various attempts, and they were already mentioned, from Visegrad for these 3 Cs, current wider Crimean platform, which is not regional, rather global, but the Central European group is probably the most visible in the Crimean platform as well. So let's discuss all these things, and let's discuss to what extent our Central European identity may contribute to the solutions of those international problems which we face and will be faced. To what extent this our belonging to the Central Europe can serve as a vehicle of solving problems and delivering the problems. So this is just a part of the agenda which we can discuss at this panel. And I would like to invite Vasil Bondar, who is still here as a Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. I welcome Vasil as the person who is one of the most engaged in the dialogue with the civil society on the side of Foreign Ministry. Welcome. So, floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here with you. For me personally, it's some kind of achievement that we are gathering together, discussing today's, like the general idea of Central Europe, and Ukraine is organizing it. So before that, we have been supportive for Prisma's activities and other NGOs with organizing bilateral forums. And it was also important to have this constructing, let's say, cooperation and engaging into partnership from different countries. Some of them were not successful, but most of them have been worked out and continue to work. So finally, as my minister said, we are continuing to turn back to Europe, to Central Europe. And you all know that we have both common interests, common challenges, maybe common problems as well, which we are concentrating on resolving. And we are working not only, let's say, on small groups or multilateral groups, but also on a bilateral dimension, trying either to find some solutions or to work for the future. For me personally, it is the added value in the format that we try to be not only the recipients of support, but also giving support. And today this support sounds like something out of the EU, but in formal terms or in practical terms, we could be helpful and we could be supportive for our Eastern partners in different dimensions. First of all, we are contributing to the security of Europe, defending eastern borders of Ukraine and taking almost all the strikes of Russian aggressive policy on ourselves. And with your support, with support of international community, I mean, White, West, we would say so, we are surviving and even getting some achievements out of this contradiction. Because Ukraine is changing, we show our possibility to defend ourselves. and also give example how other countries can contradict this Russian aggressive policy. The other dimension is also with the economic part of the story, because FTA with the EU open many important things which may be not so visible in our political arena, but are important for our businesses. And changing the standards, switching onto the European markets and working with the European business communities, it also changed the mentality of Ukrainian business and Ukrainians by themselves. And also, Ukrainian labor force or Ukrainians who are working in Europe, they're also contributing to their economies. The third dimension, which could be important, is also with the prospects of the EU enlargement. Okay, we all are saying this is not possible, or fatigue, etc., etc. But let's look at the map and let's count the figures. Who is now leading the EU? We know. And is Central Europe achieve something if Ukraine will be the part of it? With all these resources, and I wouldn't be afraid to say it, with the number of MPs in the European Parliament. So let's count on that. Let's look at the economic potential, defense potential, and other things which could be supplementary to the existing European level of defense, and which we can contribute, as well with the technologies. So what now is the IT sector doing for the whole region, or for, let's say, other countries? It is hugely known. And it is one of the added values which could be uncountable if we go inside into our potential. But still many stereotypes are working. And we are looking, okay, we could not, we would not. But the Crimean platform, which was very successful as a launching initiative, showed that we can, and we could do in other many things. So let's combine our efforts and work together for the benefits of the whole region. So we are not fighting for ourselves. We are not striving for ourselves. Because joining our efforts, it will be more sufficient and effective to defend our interests in joint platform. So this platform, I believe, will be continued in other countries, and I encourage the NGO representatives and representatives of other countries to continue this initiative and to work with our community to continue this work and to think about what more we could get with joining our efforts and how to do it better. Maybe with the idea, because Minister spent a lot of attention to the formats which already have been established. All of them have their particular dimension and aims. With the Lublin Triangle, it's the key dimension about European integration. Let's call it like Weimar Triangle, helping Poland to integrate to the EU. Or, for example, our European trio, or Euro integration trio, it's like Visegrad Group, which was joining the efforts and trying to, or was doing its best on the European integration track. And so it is not only, let's say, copy-paste, but also improving the agenda, which is very important for us. And these formats, they are also supplementary to existing one. And we are using all the experiences that have been worked out further on. And working not only to work for, let's say, for the formats by themselves, but also to widen their spheres. Starting from disinformation and many other areas, for example, Lublin Triangle, to the youth format or to students format, which could be also supplementary and look for the future. So maybe I will stop on that because I could talk endlessly. So thank you so much for organizing this forum. For me, it's really personally important. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister, and I hope we will elaborate further on your points during the discussion afterwards. But now I would like to invite first Ambassador Radek Matula to contribute to our discussion. Ambassador of the Czech Republic to Ukraine.
Dear Minister, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I'm glad to be here today with you. I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this forum. A few remarks on the Czech Republic and the Central European platforms and formats. The long-term key tasks of the Czech Republic in Central Europe include not only maintaining excellent bilateral relations with other countries of the regions, but also developing the coalition potential of the Central European region in general, and supporting the development of cross-border cooperation. Our task for the future is to strengthen and develop these priorities. However, COVID affected us all and completely everything. You agree with me. Many people already divide events into the period before the COVID and after it. This crisis, which we have still not completely got rid of, has opened up new questions and links between European and Central European policies. It turned out that the new interconnectedness, being the result of the European integration, creates interdependence. Interdependence which in times of crisis can bring unexpected situations and expose needs for further deepening of some European policies. The situation required to expose greater coordination and sometimes to create new coordination mechanisms. Even greater need for substantial cooperation with neighbors has appeared at the bilateral level and often at the regional and cross-border level. Some common operational formats of cooperation in time of crisis proved to be unsuitable for resolving the crisis, and these formats did not lead to results. However, new formats appeared, such as Central 5 group, which apart from the Czech Republic also includes Slovakia, Hungary, Austria and Slovenia. Anyway, from the point of view of the Czech Republic, an importance of regional and cross-border cooperation is growing in general, which was reaffirmed by successful communication with our neighbors during the coronavirus crisis. I don't want to give you a comprehensive lecture on Central European regional groupings, which the Czech Republic is a member. Therefore, I will only briefly mention our view on the main ones. And I cannot start other than with the Visegrad cooperation. Awareness of it is probably the most widespread here in Ukraine. What's our view on this cooperation? Rational, pragmatic and constructive approach, informality and flexibility, focusing on European issues and European formats, with special emphasis on cooperation in Central Europe, on supporting regions in the EU's neighborhood, including the Eastern Partnership. Cooperation only where we have common interest. We are actively looking for the specific added value that this cooperation among our countries can bring. I must state here that the V4 is not the primary foreign policy tool for the Czech Republic. We prefer the development of bilateral relations. On the other hand, it is clearly true that over the years the V4 has become an effective tool for promoting our common interests in the EU, as well as an important Central European platform for dialogue and practical cooperation. We highly appreciate that in these difficult times the priorities of the current Hungarian V4 presidency aim to reinforce cooperation between our countries so as to contribute to common European solutions and our regions and Europe's resilience, security and stability, as well as to post-pandemic economic and social reopening and recovery. We are very pleased that we can support one of the leading ideas of the program of Hungarian presidency, that the Visegrad countries feel responsible for Europe's future, preserving its values and principles and supporting the EU's further enlargement. We very much share the emphasis on the importance of the good neighborly relations and people-to-people relations and contacts in our region, which have lived through complicated times. In very practical terms, we benefit from our very good informal contacts in the V4 circle and try to prevent any surprising or unexpected steps in our travel regimes, border regimes, without previous warning. We are happy that the only institution of the V4 remains the International Visegrad Fund, a unique tool supporting people-to-people contacts inside V4 and beyond, including with the Eastern Partnership countries. It is important to keep it open for a free competition of ideas and projects of all our citizens and NGOs. As ambassador in Ukraine, I am glad that Ukraine is the largest beneficiary of grant projects. This was Visegrad Group, and complementary to the Visegrad cooperation is the Slavkov cooperation. Slavkov format, the Czech Republic, Austria and Slovakia, has become an integral and natural part of the close neighbors cooperation in the Central European region. In addition to Visegrad and the strategic dialogue with Germany, the Slavkov format is one of the basic pillars of the Czech Republic's regional cooperation with its neighbors. We welcome the interest of other European partners to consult in the extended Slavkov Plus format, but we want to keep Slavkov stable and unchanged, and the Slavkov Plus to become an open format for discussions with our partners on ad hoc issues, for example, COVID situation, migration, social issues, transport, infrastructure, energy, and so on and so on. At the beginning, I mentioned the Center 5 group. Mr. Minister also mentioned this group. He took part the C5 foreign ministers meeting in Bratislava this year in May. This group consists of the Czech Republic, Austria, Hungary, Slovakia, and Slovenia. The C5 group of countries was set up in June last year, and its main goal was to cooperate and coordinate the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, including cross-border cooperation and addressing cross-border restrictions. Over the past year, a lot of useful work has been done in the framework of this regional format, and we have learned a lot. For example, it was mutual assistance in the repatriation of our citizens from abroad, assistance in providing medical supplies, or coordination of border restrictions between C5 countries, including commuters or small cross-border traffic. But it is also about cooperation within the EU in the field of foreign policy, in particular our support for the EU integration of the Western Balkan countries and the Eastern Partnership policy. Minister Kuleba can confirm that these were topics of the discussion when he was in Bratislava. So there are less known formats like Bucharest 9, 3Cs, but Central European Initiative, but I want to stop here. This was our view on the cooperation within the Central European formats. And the last remarks, I would like to underline that Ukraine is a very important partner for the Czech Republic. Ukraine is our neighbor, despite the fact that we have not a common border, and we look forward to cooperating with Ukraine both at a bilateral level and within all European, Central European platforms and formats. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. Now I ask Ambassador Cichocki to continue this discussion. Please, Ambassador.
Дуже дякую. Дуже радий бути з вами. З багатьма ми добре знайомі і давно співпрацюємо. Дуже знакова подія. Звернення уваги Україною до регіону, присутність голови міністерства. Я розумію, як політичну заяву, яку ми довгими роками чекали, і радий, що почули. І не припадково, мені здається, не припадково ця заява звучить саме зараз. Я про це декілька слів скажу потім. Перш за все, хочу все ж таки привітати Василя Мироновича з днем народження, який ми будемо святкувати на наступному тижні. Політичні заяви бувають різними, але такі дипломати, їх свята – це справи, про які треба пам'ятати. Вони є нас фундаментом для нас. Колеги, я хочу звернути вашу увагу, що наша ситуація нашого регіону дуже важливим образом змінюється останнім часом і не в кращу сторону. Я маю на увазі і саміт у Женеві президентів США і Росії, маю на увазі американсько-німецьку заяву про Nord Stream 2, закінчення будівництва Nord Stream 2, маю на увазі те, що відбулося в Афганістані, і те, що відбувається у Білорусі. З нашої точки зору, ця динаміка, погана динаміка, вона має нас консолідувати. Регіон має цементуватись, має з'єднатись, бо ми всі, може в різному масштабі, звісно, що позиція України із-за цього, що ви не в Європейському Союзі, не в НАТО і що на вашій території триває агресія і окупація, у нас це ще не відбувається, але ми, країни нашого регіону, таким чи іншим чином є жертвами цієї поганої динаміки. Ми маємо спільно знайти відповідь на ці виклики і ці загрози. І перші сигнали, що ми розуміємо, добре розуміємо цю ситуацію, були вже зроблені наприкінці липня, мені здається. Це був день, коли прозвучала заява США і Німеччини про Nord Stream 2. Голови наших дипломатичних міністерств, міністр Збігнєв Рау і Дмитро Кулеба, дали спільну заяву щодо наслідків Nord Stream 2 і щодо наших очікувань. Була потім дуже однозначна заява президента Анджея Дуди на саміті Кримської платформи 23 августа. І на минулому тижні, якщо не помиляюсь, зустріч прем'єр-міністрів Матеуша Моравєцького і Дениса Шмигаля у місті Карпач. І хочу звернути вашу увагу на вихід до преси це 9 вересня було, звернути увагу на заяву прем'єр-міністра Моравєцького. Ми спільно очікуємо реальних гарантій щодо транзиту газу через Україну. Ми розуміємо, що Nord Stream 2 створює дефіцит у сфері безпеки, і це має бути рекомпенсовано. Але також змушує нас до політичної консолідації. І можемо розмовляти про формати. Вони є різними. Є і Трімор'я, але є і Нормандська четвірка, є дуже такий популярний формат у Києві послів G7, в яких присутні країни G7, інші країни не присутні. Можна на це фокусувати увагу. А можна фокусувати увагу на рішення. Ось ми чекаємо багато років, наприклад, якщо розмовляємо про енергетичну безпеку, яким чином Україна буде ставитись до цього? Чи буде звертатись до джерел газу у Центральній Азії? Тоді не треба розмовляти про Тримор'я, а про якесь інше моря. Чи все ж таки будуть прийняті рішення по інтерконекторам і іншим інвестиціям, які допоможуть імпортувати LNG через територію Польщі? Про це також розмовляли прем'єр-міністри. Ми з одного боку задоволені, що уряд України розглядає цю справу, але вже 21-й Nord Stream побудований, немає часу розглядати ці справи. Можна також думати конструктивно. Є формат G7, дуже добре, і вітаю послів, тут представлений цей формат послом Масікосом. Вони дуже багато роблять для реформ в Україні. А можна подумати і про формат С8, дипломатичний у Києві. Посли країн Балтії, Вишеградської групи, Румунії. Мені здається, у мене іноді бувають ще мрії. Я мрію одноразово бути Євгеном Максаком. Як я був би Євгеном Максаком, у мене була б можливість рекомендувати щось самим топ-політикам України. Я би їм рекомендував зустрічатись не тільки з послами G7, а й з послами С8, чи якось інакше можна це назвати. Можна і Австрію запросити. Я чую, що у колеги Радика є гарні відносини і у Чехії з Австрією. Чому ні? Тобто, зрозуміло для усіх, мені так здається, що ми маємо консолідуватись. Але ми також маємо розуміти, що кожна з наших країн є демократією. Люди голосують, вибирають уряди. І маємо розуміти, що для виборців іноді складно зрозуміти, чому уряд витрачає багато часу, коштів, грошей на допомогу таким чи іншим країнам, коли там приймаються рішення, які просто не сприймаються виборцями тієї чи іншої країни. І ми дуже добре розуміємо цей зміст проблем у польсько-українських відносинах. І хотілося б ще раз нагадати про обов'язкове вирішення справ чи у реформі освіти в Україні, які доторкаються національної меншини, польської національної меншини і інших тут представлених національних меншин. Про відомі так звані справи історичні, вони не є історичними, вони доторкаються рішень адміністративних, політичних сьогодні. Я впевнений, що є такі рішення, які болючі для виборців України, які робляться і в Польщі. Про це також треба розмовляти і вирішити ці справи, бо, ще раз, в нас немає часу. Nord Stream побудований, все. Добре сталося, що ми виграли у трибуналі справу з ОПАЛ, бо так Газпром мав би 100% газу і взагалі не потребував би транзитної системи України. Так, ще йому обов'язкова ваша транзитна система. Але зараз прийде зима. Скільки у вас угля на storages? 40%, що потребуєте? Атомні станції в ремонті. Тобто ще один аспект справ, енергетична безпека, яка змушує нас заохочує нас консолідуватись. І ще раз вітаю з рішенням про створення цього форуму. Дуже дякую за запрошення і працюємо. Дякую.
Дуже дякую, амбасадор. І прошу до слова Кристину Марфі. I like Christina Murphy to talk now, Deputy Head of Mission Embassy of Hungary in Ukraine. And I just let me remind you that English is our working language, and just please. But I thank you. I thank you. But yes. That I just has been informed that there is no simultaneous translation. Yes. Yeah. No simultaneous translation. So. Yeah, well, certainly most of us understand all the Ukrainian and English, but this is a point of organizers. So please, Christina, floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, my ambassador could not make it because he's working on very important issues in Uzhhorod right now, which hopefully contributes to bettering of our relations. But I'm very happy that I can be here, and obviously, from the point of view of Hungary, I would like to first of all say a few words about the Visegrad 4 cooperation, also because we have the presidency as of 1st of July, and we have several very important points on the priorities of the Hungarian presidency. And also I would like to mention two other regional initiatives that were briefly mentioned before, but they are now more in the focus of Hungarian foreign policy, and I think it might be interesting also from the perspective of Ukraine. And thank you as well for organizing this very interesting and timely forum. So as for the Visegrad cooperation, as it has also been mentioned by the ambassador, that it's quite a flexible format, it's informal, and it's complementary to our national interests. Hence, it's a very good working format. It's not institutionalized. The only institution is the International Visegrad Fund, which is contributing to connectivity between our citizens and funds many programs. Also this year, for the first time, we have, or last year, sorry, with the start of the pandemic, we have also reached out to Ukraine and the Eastern Partnership countries with a special program on contributing to the relief, the COVID relief. We had basically a contribution to renovating some of the hospitals and first aid facilities here in Ukraine. Returning to the Visegrad 4 format, it's also the 30th anniversary of the Visegrad format this year, which is actually a very, very how would you say it, nice and nice date to remember, because since the beginning, since '91, we have achieved quite a lot together with our partners, and it has also pretty much helped us to pave the way to the European and transatlantic integration as well. And today our societies are more pro-European than actually many in Western Europe. For example, 81% of Hungarians would be voting for being a part of the EU. And as I understand, most of our countries have such high numbers. Also, in the eyes of our citizens in the Visegrad group, the Visegrad cooperation itself is quite a high value, and it's also underscored by our opinion polls. It's somehow it's a natural format actually, and not just because it has a very long history dating back to the 14th century, but it's also a consequence of communist heritage, or getting rid of our communist heritage that we had, and facing together the social and economic challenges that we had in the early 90s, which is, we have common ways of thinking, we have very strong solidarity, and we are coming from similar backgrounds, so it's a very strong basis for cooperation and looking for joint solutions. Also, we are trying to be part of this competitive and innovative Europe. As for the priorities of the Hungarian presidency, our main goals are rebuilding stability, which means recharging our cooperation to contribute to the security and stability of our region and Europe as well as to face the post-pandemic economic and social reopening and recovery. Before the pandemic, the V4 region constituted the growth engine of Europe. Our countries have been able to maintain the relative stability of their national budgets even during the COVID crisis, which, along with the proper management of sovereign debt, has contributed to maintaining financial stability. And the recent economic prognosis once again show an above EU average GDP growth in the V4 countries for the next 2 years, which is, I think, quite a remarkable thing. The national economic policy of our countries is based on low tax rates, which is a comparative advantage. Consequently, our firm position is that determining tax policy should remain a national competence. When thinking about competitiveness in the future, we have to take into consideration the possibilities of green economic transition and the achievements of the digital sector. We also have a lot of discussions on migration-related issues and stabilizing Europe, the future of Europe. The enlargement of the European Union, which the Visegrad 4 countries are very strong advocates of. Some of our current regional challenges are actually not so new. We should work every day on completing the missing transport and energy links in Central Europe to strengthen our region's competitiveness and cohesion. New technologies will also have a role to play here. For example, in the development of high-speed railway connections between our countries, which is already a work in progress. What I would also like to mention, apart from the Visegrad 4 cooperation, is the Central European Initiative, which is actually one of the oldest regional initiatives. It dates back to 1989. And I think it's also quite an important initiative for Ukraine to consider, and where Ukraine could also benefit a lot, also in terms of future Euro-Atlantic integration plans. This is an initiative dating back to 1989, and in the past 30 years it has institutionalized actually with an executive secretariat in Trieste, Secretary General, and it has a very active parliamentary dimension. It has also established a task force for the coordination of exchange of information on the pandemic, which was working quite well. There's also meetings in different formats. For example, the last format was on 23rd of June with the meeting of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs. Our priorities in the Central European Initiative is to improve connectivity between our countries, which would benefit to enhancing our regional cooperation and making our cooperation much stronger, also Central Europe stronger. We are also very supportive of Central European traffic connections. There's, for example, the development of the Via Carpathia corridor in order to connect regions along the external borders of the European Union. There's a 230-kilometer long Hungarian section of the Via Carpathia, which will be completed by the end of this year. And we're also quite big supporters of strengthening energy security by expanding key infrastructure interconnections with our neighbors. Access to natural gas, both from the north via the LNG terminal in Poland and the Southern Gas Corridor. Also, we are looking at different energy connectivity solutions, also in terms of electricity, for example. And one last initiative I would like to briefly mention is the 3 Cs initiative, which has been mentioned, but it's there's not so much talk about it, although it's actually making progress, and it's quite an interesting initiative in terms of projects. So in 2020, its investment fund has become fully operational with the contribution of a number of its member states. And the first projects have been selected, which focus mainly on green energy and transport for now. But as we look at it, it will be also in the future quite an interesting sphere of developing and modernizing actually the region, because it will select projects which need financing. We're also looking for, or the fund is also looking for the financing of parties outside of this initiative. And it might bring actually interesting modern development into our region in terms of transport and energy interconnectivity. So thank you. That's briefly from my part. And I'll be happy to take questions.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I apologize. I can't stay for debate. I have to join the program.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you, Ambassador. We'll certainly continue with big interest. I just would like to encourage you to identify your interest to participate in the discussion, to put questions to panelists, but also make your own comments, contributions, discussion points. Please stop.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, just use the mic, yes.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ostap Kривdik, Ukrainian Catholic University Analytical Center. My question is about Russia's subversive activities in the region. We've witnessed recent development of events in Czech Republic when a person who was illegally fighting against Ukraine was arrested by the Czech authorities, and Russian pressure on Czechia regarding this. How do you think, how can we, within regional framework, give a joint answer to this pressure? Because I'm sure this pressure is felt in every country of our region. Thank you.
Okay. Would you like ambassadors to respond? Who would, or minister? Whom do you address?
In general.
Okay. Everyone. Okay, so I ask
Yes, I will substitute Radek when he's out for some period of time, if you permit. First of all, we have been contradicting different hybrid attempts of Russia to use legal methods for persecuting Ukrainians who have been fighting against Russian aggression and trying to use Interpol or other bilateral communications and to take Ukrainians out of Europe to Russia for persecution. It's one dimension. This is the second side of the story, or the part of medal. And this is the positive side, because it also showed that judicial system is working. Because we have a number of people, also our citizens, who have been fighting against Ukraine on the Russian side. That is the legal procedures, and we should combine our efforts, and it's a justice. It's not about the persecution for political reasons, but because of the killing people and committed crimes. To contradict this, we could only with joining efforts. And joining efforts on the basis of existing treaties, we have a number of them, starting from conventions, ending to bilateral treaties on law support of each other. And it is the only answer, because in case we will use political methods of influences, I mean like Russians are trying to use, we are their political figures or who are supporting them, we will be like Russia. Our attempt is not to be like Russia, just to work, not in propaganda but in the truth, to work in the legal frameworks and to show that we are the countries who are respecting the rights. And even if these guys will be brought to Ukraine, they should be persecuted according to the law. But not as Russians are doing in Crimea, using torture and illegally arresting, etc., etc. So it is all about values. And if we join together and work on law, that will give results. And Russia will understand that our joint efforts bring results. And anyone who is guilty will be punished. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything to add on the panel? So if not, let's continue discussion, please. Please, and introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Ildikó Eperesi. I come from ATV Hungary. I work as producer. And as I'm a journalist, I much rather ask than comment on what has been said. There were times when Germany was counted as one of the Central European countries. And very soon, very important elections are coming in Germany. And according to the surveys, Mr. Olaf Scholz has a very good chance to win this election. And he has claimed that he has different views on Russia than his predecessor, if he's elected, of course. And he is going to have a new strategy. How is Ukraine, the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry is preparing for this? What do you expect from Mr. Olaf Scholz if he is elected indeed? And my other question is, the Polish ambassador came up with, if I understood it well, he came up with the topic of the Nord Stream 2, that Ukraine needs guarantees that it won't be used against Ukraine. What guarantees do you demand exactly? And Ms. Christina Murphy, Hungarian ambassador, how can possibly Hungary help Ukraine to get these guarantees? Thank you.
Very interesting question. So please don't consider if I say something not in line with the official stance that I'm interfering into German affairs. So it's not about that and no my intent. So, but nevertheless, so it's first of all, Germany is our partner and strategic partner. We have a good support of them from them on the basis of the Nordic format. And it is essential to have Germany on the same side of contradicting Russian aggression and continue efforts to settle in a peaceful means the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. That is one key point. And we should praise here Merkel and the whole government which was working on that and trying to find a solution for that. So that is the clear vision and we understand. Second dimension, we also have a wide range of cooperation. We have some support from German side. It is also essential. We believe it will be continued. With the approach to Russia, we have a division of policies. So during my consultations with the German side and during recent visit of Madame Merkel to Kiev, it was clearly stated that any rapprochement with Russia couldn't be done in the coast of Ukraine and coast of Central Europe. But it was already done, and not by the Schulz, which most probably will be the leader of the possible government, but with the existing government. And arrangements which was reached between the United States and Germany, it was not supported by neither Ukraine nor Poland. And we have a joint stance on that, repeating our critical stance to the allowance of Russia or appeasement of Russia by letting them to construct this Nord Stream 2 to continue influence on Europe. And when the government of Germany or the German business will understand that they are multiplying their dependence on Russia, it will be maybe too late. But we are saying it loudly. That is why we are also sharing and discussing the, and also I share opinion of Ambassador Tikhotsky, we should join our efforts together and work for our interests as well, because there is no time for waiting for someone from the West will assist us. It seems like real politics is turning back, and Nord Stream 2 is one of the vivid example of that. From the other side, we also have clear assurances from the United States that they will not allow to use it, Nord Stream 2, as a weapon against Ukraine. Let's see what it will be in practical terms. We still count on their active support in this regard and active concrete steps, which will not allow Russians to use it. But how to do it properly if it will be functioning? So that is a big question. And the answer is the interconnectors and constructing other way and routes and sources of supply of energy, and strengthening energy efficiency. And there are many ways of cooperating between us, as well with Hungary. We also have a wide range of things of virtual, how it's called, yes, with gas flow and with physical as well. Now there is also a question, because we are on the eve of signing new agreement. So many questions, more questions than answers. I believe that we would have in nearest weeks the sitting of Economic Commission between our ministers, and we will discuss also this particular issue and how we should be helpful. Because there is also a theoretical idea about Kirk refinery, which could be, let's say, could have some connections with the via territory of Hungary to Ukraine. Still, it is theoretical. I believe that experts now it's much more deeper, but it's also one of the ways to work on that. Still, the issue for businesses will be the price. Is it real to buy it? And well, so more real is from Poland to use LNG and to reconstruct this interpipe and not interpipe but interconnector, and use. We have already the legal base. We have signed a memorandum, a trilateral memorandum in 2018 with the United States on this. So it's one of the ways, but still, it is not the only answer. The answer there are many answers, but on which we work on. But it's in our joint efforts, not in dividing ourselves on some topics, because it's in the interest of Russia for us to be divided, and not only Russia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, here I am.
Anything to add?
Can I?
Just a moment.
Okay. Sorry.
If I may add, we understand that Ukraine's government defines the real guarantees as legally binding contract with Gazprom on supplies, on transit, 2024 plus for 10 years. Our efforts vis-à-vis Nord Stream has been undertaken 10 or more years ago, and they were focused on bringing Nord Stream 2 under the EU legislation, which Germany and some other countries believed should not be the case. So to create accountability and to create a mechanism of solving legally contradictions of different parties. Because if this kind of interconnectors are not under the EU law, we don't have mechanism within the EU to address our claims. And I understand that third direction of efforts is to increase domestic production of gas in Ukraine. And in this respect, we came up with some help by signing a contract between PGNiG company and ERU on Karpat Zdobywania. So we are starting to extract, we should start early next year to extract gas in Ukraine to increase domestic production of Ukraine, and this should be the first project in a row. You probably also noticed a visit by top managers of Orlen to Ukraine. So these are, I would say, physical elements of response to Nord Stream 2 consequence. Very interesting, I would say, idea that Germany is Central European country. Well, I don't think Germany is Central European country after Nord Stream 2 has been completed. This is completely contrary to being Central European. This is completely contrary to being Central European when you request European Council to relaunch relationship with Russia without any conditions, which was made by Germany and France. Having said that, Germany is critical, and whatever government the Germans, the voters would elect, we will definitely look for German leadership and responsibility. I am very much excited how Normandy 4 would work after Chancellor Angela Merkel steps down, after very unfortunate, shocking actually passing of Ambassador Jan Hecker in China. These were people who memorized every comma in Minsk agreements, and they knew line of contact by meters, not by kilometers. So let's see, we need to support Germany, and we should expect support from Germany, whatever government they elect. Thank you.
Thank you. Who else? No?
Just thank you for Deputy Minister Bodnar for taking my answers. I'm very grateful, so I don't want to repeat that. So yes, indeed, we do have actually a quite good communication with our Ukrainian partners on the energy-related topics, and we do have expert-level meetings. Before the pandemic, obviously, they were more frequent. We do have connections between our energy suppliers and energy companies, so basically, we have always been promoting the line in, Hungary's position that we are interested in stabilizing energy supplies in the region, and we are working on also promoting the LNG terminal projects, interconnectivity, and we have been supplying reverse gas to Ukraine as well. So there's actually a lot of communication and a lot of talks about that. As for Nord Stream 2, I'm not sure we were involved actually in all the debates regarding guarantees to Ukraine or anything that Germany and the United States has talked to Ukraine about, so I cannot comment on that really. Thank you.
Thanks. Let's move forward, please.
Hello to everyone.
Then you. There was another guy.
Okay.
Okay, you'll be next, and then the lady over there.
Okay. Hello to everyone. My name is Dmitro Tuzhansky. I'm from Institute of Central European Strategy, actually from the region where that stone is located. You started our forum, and I passed it a few weeks ago, so very good road already. My question mainly to the ambassadors regarding very simple issue. What we have to do and what should be done to back Ukraine into not just niche context of like experts, politicians, but to mainstream context of your countries and to the mainstream agenda of your countries, not just about minority issues, migration, or I don't know, any historical issues, but about some infrastructure, roads, and so on and so on. So real stuff. Thank you.
We've been discussing real stuff actually for past 10 years. We had common understanding with Mr. Groisman government about Go Highway project to connect Odessa, Khmelnytsky, Lviv with A2 and A4 to Gdańsk. But then freely Ukrainians choose to elect different government, which decided to give up the project. I mean, but we are still discussing. You have Wielkie Budownictwo. It's making a change, but there is no single kilometer of highway within this project. So how can you build a 3Cs, infrastructural 3Cs? We are discussing, I mentioned the interconnector issues. There is endless discussion with Naftogaz managers whether what we already have is enough, what they believe is the case, or not, which we believe is the case. There is no enough capacity to siphon gas to Ukraine in case something happens through Polish territory. There are different interconnections, of course. So we are discussing real stuff, but still, this is very much technical. Public opinion does not, I would say, digest those things, while everyone perfectly understands what kind of a monument you erect or what kind of a stadium you name after what kind of a hero. And I repeat my multiple statements. Be careful about sensitivity of the taxpayers in our countries, because everyone understands symbols, while not everyone understands, and few only understands what kind of armored vehicle we sold to Ukraine, what kind of a drone is flying over line of contact. This is very specific expert knowledge, and not only experts are voting. Thank you.
Thank you. I promised to give a floor to you because you was, and then the lady on another side. Yeah, please.
Hello, my name is Denis Ganja, one of the founders of the Youth Lublin Triangle, and we also unite Belarus to the youth format of the Lublin Triangle. And I would just allow myself a short of a comment, not a question. According to what said Ambassador Tichotsky, you said that we don't really have time, and I totally agree with you. And this is why I'm really kindly asking all of those who are presented here, you should give more power to youth, you should give more projects to youth, and because we really can solve most of the issues which were happening in the past just with a couple of projects and bottles of Porządka Żelazkowa. So really, thank you for invitation, and I hope that we will deepen our cooperation.
Okay, so if it's just a comment, please feel free to talk. Do you have a microphone? Yes.
Yeah, thanks. Irina Rabotyagova. I represent Karazin Kharkiv National University. I'm associate professor there. My question is mostly to Pan Vasil and just a little bit to other panelists. I fully agree with your statement about common problems that we are facing with Central European states. But I also see a separate problem of Ukraine that is not allowing us to integrate as fast as we want. I'm talking about a big cluster of Ukrainian economy that is still crying a river about losing cooperation with Russia. And it's not only an economic problem, because just behind this cluster of economy, a lot of politicians are standing. My question to you is how we can encourage business to integrate. What are the pluses of Euro integration for such a cluster of business that lost a lot of money by losing cooperation with Russia? And this cluster of business is not really ready to integrate, I mean, like technologically first. Second question is for other panelists, how your states coped with such a problem earlier. I mean, how you encouraged your business to integrate, what were the issues for interest for business in your states? Thank you.
Thank you. Very important question. So it is one of the, let's say, sites of European integration when you have. So first of all, that is not about European integration. Let's say, ending cooperation with Russia was the Russian will, and they started a war, and it forced many businesses and enterprises to stop working with them. It's one thing. The second thing is just to encourage others. It means to show them the prospects. Showing prospects means that they should have an entrance to the market and having possibility to cooperate with other partners. With EU, it is within this association council, which is being discussed on all possible levels. I mean, experts and others. I don't know. It worked. The other thing is to also looking for other markets. So we are now encouraged to work more closely with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs Council of Exports and Importers, which are working directly with our embassies and encouraging them to attract more attention from the other markets than the European one as well. Because EU, it's one thing, and it's the big market which is gradually, let's say, step by step, will be opening its places for our businesses. But other thing is about, for example, Turkish market, for Gulf countries market, for Asian, and there are a number of strategies which are now being developed. And please let's form the group of the countries of companies who would like to have, let's say, other ways of cooperation and what they would like to find and what they would like to have, let's say, in outcomes, and then work directly with embassies, which could propose something for instead of the Russian market. But it's not a simple answer, because we have been stuck not only to Russian market, but to Russian type of thinking. That is the story which we should substitute with the European type of thinking. And it's not physical. It's more moral, according to rules, according to standards, according to, let's say, high demands, which means that businesses should also strengthen themselves from inside. That is also the request of the time. And also to give more, let's say, more opportunities for the workers, etc. So it's a discussable issue, but still many questions we should resolve together by seeing case by case and looking for opportunities for every company. Thank you.
I agree to some extent with Minister Kuleba, who said that our past is very similar or parallel in this respect of the consequences of the collapse of certain trade economic ties and the transformation of the post-Soviet, post-socialist economy to free market economy is similar. So it's always interesting to compare what mistakes we've done or what kind of different mistakes we've done, what successes. For example, critically in Poland, which was very hardly hit with this 80-90 revolution, I would say, was the success that we still escaped the oligarchy, which you have. You haven't avoided. You have the oligarchy. We had we had this toxic juncture, the symbiosis of former special services and mafias. And again, at some point, we decided to introduce what we called lustracja, which is known in Ukraine, but it's different. And we started to delegalize those people. Not so many countries in the region did that to this extent. The Czechs did it to the even heavier. Eastern Germany did that to get rid of those non-transparent connections between communist special services and businesses. I believe is critical. Banking system reform. We sold out at some point all of our banks to the foreigners, and that was a huge mistake. We gave up on a significant part of the of our sovereignty, and now this is being reversed, and to some extent we've already succeeded. Some decisions within what's called shock therapy costed a lot. Those former kolkhoz system, we also had this to some overnight. It was cancelled and people left without nothing. And now I see the significance of your parliament and your president's decision of the land market, and that I believe that it could be huge if it works out. Justice. We are still stuck with post-communist justice system in Poland. It is not effective. It is corrupt. Unfortunately, we are stuck not so much with our judges, but with our EU colleagues who believe that this is a conservative, anti-democratic revolution, which is not. So we need to spend some time on explaining our allies that we are actually trying to get rid of the Soviet communist legacy to help the investors and the businesses to operate. Ask whatever investor in Poland his or her opinion about Polish justice system. I don't think anyone would be of a positive opinion. So you need to have a credit system. Credits in Ukraine are unbelievably expensive. What kind of a business you can launch if you don't have your own money inherited after, I don't know, Graf Trubetskoy or whatever. You cannot operate, you cannot run a business if you don't have telephones of the judges in your mobile here, etc., etc. So you need to have justice, you need to have banking system, you don't need oligarchs, definitely. And then there's this interesting issue, and this would be a game changer in Ukraine if you followed what we are doing, what we've been doing in Poland. The government started very early after the elections in 2016 to consolidate the customs and tax system and to increase control over the cash flows and to push for digitalization of financial flows. It resulted altogether in growing economy to more than 10% since 2016. Our economy grew by more than 10% after 2016 to COVID. Now we need to check how COVID impacted. And the additional revenue from this new consolidated system to our budget is more than 80 billion zloty per year, which is 3 times bigger than the subsidies from the EU. We fund our very generous social programs, family programs, from the money we took from the mafia, to make long story short. And definitely Ukraine has much bigger potential in this respect, and Prime Minister Morawiecki advised precisely to do that to President Zelensky in August 2019, and the same was repeated in Karpacz in Prime Minister Morawiecki conversation with Prime Minister Szmychal. The problem with VAT mafias is that they are international. If they are kicked out from Poland, they would move to Ukraine, they would move to Lithuania. So we signed agreements with Slovakia and Lithuania so far to cooperate on preventing tax evasion. And we are now talking to Ukraine to sign agreement, not just a memorandum, to do the same. By this, if you do this, you create equal conditions for competition on the market. The critical problem of business in Ukraine is that if you don't have a proper cell phone number, you pay 30% of customs, and your competitor pays 0 because he has right channels of communication. The inequality of conditions of competition is killing Ukraine. If you get rid of that, if you create equal access to the justice, to the credits, to customs, to retail market, then you are much richer actually than any country, with all due respect to Hungary or Czechia, because your potential is much bigger, defined by sources, by location, geographic location, by the talents by the human potential, etc. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you.
Дякую. Thank you. You want to add this?
As saying the example of Hungary, the transition in the early 90s and how we got to become a successful economy. One thing I would really like to underscore is that we had a very widespread understanding, public understanding of wanting to join the EU and wanting to join the European institutions and wanting to have a democratic transition. It took us more than 20 years of hard work actually to achieve this, but all of the youth organizations, a lot of volunteer services were engaged into the work of the European integration and the Euro-Atlantic integration of Hungary, actually. So I think comparing to that in Ukraine, the public understanding and the common public support for the Euro-Atlantic integration is probably something that could still be improved. And I know the European Union and the delegation is also working hard on promoting more the EU, what the EU does, what benefits the association agreement can bring. So that's also something I would encourage to continue. As for Hungary's economy, I would say we have a very strong small and middle-sized enterprise sector as well, which probably is also a good driving force in Hungary, but we also have a very strict and very good tax system. We have quite a strong legal system as well. We have a lot of good progress on opening businesses and help to open businesses. And of course, it's also very helpful that we have a very strong government, which has been in power for more than 11 years now, and the interlocutors on the Hungarian side are not changing probably as fast as in Ukraine. Just an example, also coming back to what Mr. Tujansky was asking, we have, regarding the real stuff, we also have our 50 million euro loan guarantee agreement with Ukraine, which we want to use for developing infrastructure in the border region especially, but we just struggle to move ahead with a lot of projects because the interlocutors from the Ukrainian side just keep changing so fast, and we keep coming back to square one. But hopefully there will be some development this year also with the opening of new border crossing points, which we are looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have a last chance to contribute. I see just two persons, and that will be our final list. So please, 1 and 2 here.
Thank you very much. My name is Pavel Havlicek, and I represent Association for International Affairs, which is a Prague-based think tank, and I'm a research fellow at the association. We are very closely cooperating with Nadim Maksak, and thanks once again for the invitation. Maybe just briefly a comment to what we have heard so far. First of all, about the change of stakeholders. I think that is a good thing, right? When you don't have maybe a government for 11 years that is concentrating on economic and political power, media power, such as the Kesma Foundation and others. So I'm very happy that in Ukraine things are actually changing from time to time. That is good news, I think. Second, maybe a brief comment also that is primarily addressed to Mr. Vasil Bodnar. I think what is also important here at this forum is to discuss about also things that we have to be careful about, I think, in the V4 Ukraine cooperation, because obviously we have heard about this today, that the cross-border issues might be somehow hindering the cooperation between the V4 and Ukraine. And I'm very happy that we had the Czech ambassador here. I had a question for him before he left, but I think the Czech position here is actually free from these little disputes about historical memory we have heard so far. We have heard about other issues about stakeholders and others. So I think here we need to focus on the positive agenda as well. So I have a question for you, Mr. Bodnar. Where do you see the 1 to 3 points for the V4 Ukraine agenda in the upcoming year or two, where your ministry, your minister would be focusing energy? Obviously, the V4 proved unable to solve some of the bilateral issues between, for example, Hungary and Ukraine. Obviously, I'm very sad about what happened last year during the local elections, for example. That was a disgrace what the Hungarian government has done around the election time. But where do you see the positive agenda in the bilateral relations, and where we could be focusing in the future cooperation? Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's really important to switch to the questions which still on our agenda. And on bilateral level, we actually are moving forward with different issues, starting from the issues of exhumations with Poland, ending to the national minority issues with Hungary. And today in Uzhhorod we have, for example, commission on education between two countries. Next week we're expecting the co-head of National Minority Commission's meeting. At the end of the month, it is planned to have the Economic Commission headed by ministers of foreign affairs. So also we are working with Poland. We have historians who are now in Poland. Hopefully, nearest time we will have the sitting of a specific commission responsible for working on that. So we're also pushing for that. And it is not that we are letting down and letting problems overcome us. But with the priorities, first of all, it's actually security and political affairs, because it is hugely important to take the issue of Ukraine's and Central European security. I could somehow divide, because we still have this frontline, let's say, military forces from south and north, Russian forces, and military threat, which is physically for us real. That is the issue. And it's a little bit different with the general security situation in the region. The other dimension is actually the political support of European integration. V4 was the format of integration to the EU. It was established and continued to be as the representative of Central European countries, of their interest in the EU, joining positions, trying to find solutions, etc. But I believe this format will be more strong if Ukraine could join it somehow, maybe not formally. With the tendency on the borderline, it's still the issue, and there was also a lack of some, let's say, efficiency from our side, because we even in previous time we have some money for how it's called. I'm losing words. For reconstruction of the border crossing points, some money from the EU we lost, but nevertheless we are now trying to make something which was for 2 years to make it in 1 year, and trying to be as fast as possible. We are using the money of the Polish credit, we are using internal resources, and this Velikie Budivnitstvo is also targeting some key points. Actually, it will not answer the question, because too many businesses and people would like to pass to and fro, and that is not only the answer. The answer, one of the possible ways of answer is the joint control, which is still stuck in the European Commission, and we need the strong support for them for opening this kind of work on kind of border checkpoints. So as well with education, or not education, but humanitarian dimension of the story, because what Visegrad is practically doing, I mean, as a unity, it's the Visegrad Fund and stipendium, which is really important for our students. But maybe we should somehow stimulate turning back students back to Ukraine to work for, let's say, for Ukraine, getting European education, then to leave Ukraine for European education. That's one of the stories. So it could be, let's say, expanded to other issues like disinformation and so forth and so on. But still, the priorities are, as I mentioned, they are not taken down of the agenda. And we believe that format Visegrad plus one country could be more effective than Visegrad plus, as it was, Eastern Partnership countries, which is more, let's say, a discussion platform, not about the practical cooperation they mentioned. Thank you.
Thank you. The time is over, but I promised quite... okay. So let's give a floor to Ambassador and then probably close the panel.
I promise I'll be short, but there are some things you believe are disrespectful, but I believe your comment and question suffered from lack of respect. Those little things you mentioned between Poland and Ukraine are not little. I'm not talking about numbers of people brutally killed. I'm also talking about values EU membership is based on, like respect for ownership. If you respect what the Bolsheviks did to your ownership, then it's not the most effective way to join the EU. If you glorify people that were not brought to justice for mass crimes, this is not anti-Polish or anti-Czech. This is anti-European. And I can assure you that Czech minority in Ukraine raises the very same questions and they have the very same claims. Well, I've been there and I talked to them. You are turning your head like you are talking to Czech diaspora in Ukraine, but believe me, I am talking to them and they have precisely the same questions toward education reform or national minority rights within the new draft law. So let's work on this. Let's not call them little things, because what experts may perceive as little things, again, for the average taxpayer, are critical points. And we live in democracy, and numbers count, not expert knowledge when we vote. Expert knowledge is critical when we build a bridge or a plane. But when we elect our governments, number counts. Thank you.
Thank you, Ambassador. So time has expired, unfortunately, and then that means that probably you will have additional opportunity of informal conversation after we close the panel. And so now I'm only in the position to welcome and to thank panelists for their brilliant contribution, for the discussion, for the readiness to talk openly, even in their official status. And so that was a good panel. And I hope that tomorrow's panel will be as well, so as much substantial as this one. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. And now just thank you. And thank you, everybody. So this panel is closed. Thank you.